back to the USS Greeneville Rising.
I'm Josh Smith in Honolulu, Hawaii. This is Pearl Harbor behind me. For many years, through the 1990s and the early part of the new millennium, the USS Greeneville was in the local headlines a lot. The community connection was visible. In recent years, though, at least the public part of that faded a bit. And that's why about 3 years ago, I contacted the United States Navy and asked for permission to follow up on this ship with such deep local ties. To answer the questions, where is it now? What's the ship doing? How are the people who are on it playing a role in the United States Navy and the defense of our country? After 3 years of a lot of work and a lot of waiting, we're here. And the U.S. Navy has granted us rare access to go on board that boat. Right now, I'm on a boat that's taking us to the USS Greeneville, where we are going to spend the next 2 days, for the most part, living with the crew and watching them on what is truly a classified mission.
This was our first glimpse of the USS Greeneville, waiting to meet us at the entrance to Pearl Harbor. A very brief stop for the sub near its home port during an 80-day training mission at sea. For the next 2 days, we would be guests on the submarine, observers to receive no special treatment, only access to watch, listen, and learn. As our transport boat reached the submarine, we were met by the captain, A.C. Carullo, on the ship's bridge, his senior staff posted on top of the submarine. A few steps across a narrow walkway, and we were in the submarine with 140 highly trained, highly specialized crew members who, when we arrived,
fish wedges for lunch along with sloppy joes,
were ready for lunch. Feeding that many people in the sub's tiny kitchen is just one of the remarkable feats of the USS Greeneville that really are daily tasks. More on how they do it later. After a brief orientation, we were ready to get to work, but Captain Carullo had a different plan.
That's 31, so you get 2 points for landing on 31.
A quick after-lunch game, the favorite among officers on the USS Greeneville.
Let's send that one.
Cribbage, on a custom game board used by every man to captain this submarine.
Can't go above 31.
Defeat for me, and what we'd soon realize was a rare moment of relaxation on this submarine, a sub that never sleeps, a ship built for war. 362 feet long, 6,900 tons, able to carry 140 men at depths of more than 800 feet, at speeds of more than 25 knots. With its own air and water purification systems, its own nuclear reactor, able to submerge indefinitely, only forced to resurface for food. Weapons equipped with torpedoes and missiles for underwater and ground attacks. Systems classified, recently updated with the Navy's most modern technology. Some of this submarine was off limits for us, guests with cameras too risky that information about the technology could get in the wrong hands. The captain of the submarine did allow us to visit here, though.
Dive, dive.
The control room of the USS Greeneville.
No, this is the brain of the submarine. 24 hours a day, this room is always buzzing with personnel. We're constantly making decisions, whether it's 0200 in the morning or 2000 at night. We're constantly doing things and making stuff happen throughout the boat and executing decisions.
Within a few hours, the USS Greeneville crew was busy in the waters around Hawaii. Exactly what they were doing, how they were training, or where we would be going, all classified. If this is the brain of the sub, behind this door is the heart, the nuclear reactor for the USS Greeneville, also off limits for security and safety reasons. This monster? Well, this is the backup generator, just in case the reactor has to be powered down.
Clear, forward, starboard!
On the bottom of 3 levels, the firepower of this boat, torpedoes for sub to ship combat, Tomahawk missiles for targeted attacks on land.
Depending on what you're doing, where you're going, how many you might carry. We might carry more Tomahawks, less torpedoes, more torpedoes, less Tomahawks. Depends on the missionary.
Senior Chief Bill Collins is the main man in the torpedo room.
Down here, we're always busy. We have reload parties. We'll have 2 teams down there doing both sides of the torpedo room.
Rig to pivot.
Whatever the captain or control calls down, says he wants in the tubes, that's what we load.
Lower inboard, outboard securing pins.
If we're doing anti-submarine or surface, we'll always have these in, and we'll just go out and hunt them and we'll shoot them. Once we launch it, then our job is complete. We'll get ready to launch another one.
While the torpedo room on the USS Greeneville is all about the torpedoes, it's also multi-use space. For instance, this is the popular workout area where they can do sit-ups, push-ups, things like that. Storage all around, even food. And while it's all about the weapons here, underneath is where submariners sleep.
At first, it was an ironic thing to witness, men resting, relishing a few brief moments of downtime in a room built to carry devastating military might. A room the captain says he hopes he never has to call into battle.
We're here to defend freedom and democracy around the world, and we say that creed a lot as a crew, and I think we all you know, take that inside, and it helps us understand what we're out here doing.
This is the boss of the boat, Captain A.C. Carullo, new on the job, in charge of an almost brand new crew. He's the 10th captain to command the USS Greeneville.
We're bringing that ship back to life, and we're also bringing the crew back to life, learning all our jobs and our tasks to be able to take the ship on deployment.
One of the men trying hard to learn his job on this boat, Zachary Patterson. Like many on the USS Greeneville, we found him working to earn his fish, as they call it, his dolphins. A pin, simply put, but it's more than that.
The significance of having your dolphins is that you're able to fight a casualty, that you can respond to any situation in the appropriate manner.
Getting qualified is not something you have a year to do. It's more like months.
It's a difficult process. It's probably the most arduous qualification that the Navy has.
Everywhere on the sub, men in training, men working, sometimes in the most challenging situations. And that's where we found Jeremiah Ruber making his rounds, checking the systems in a room just off the sub's control, anxious to talk to us about his new bride.
She understands that it's my job, that, you know, I go out there and I defend our nation, our stars and stripes.
And the profound reasons he joined the Navy.
It's personal for you.
It is very personal for me, sir. It's, defending this flag is something that every male in my family has done since my great-grandfather. They've all been part of the armed services.
Personal pride that sustains these men.
Give me some rag time.
Through the rigors of daily life on a nuclear attack sub, where creature comforts are few.
Coming up, living under the sea on a sub built for battle. But first, when the USS Greeneville Rising continues. And now, back to the USS Greeneville Rising, brought to you by Phil Bachman Honda and Phil Bachman Toyota.
This is something you hope to never see on board a submarine. Fire means oxygen lost. Not good when you're in a metal tube deep in the sea.
Fires don't happen very often, but when they do happen, you'll see the crew will spring into action in a very quickly and make sure it gets put out.
Chief Petty Officer Jeremy Wright of Knoxville, Tennessee, oversees the submariners' training here at the Naval Training Center on Ford Island in Pearl Harbor.
We like to see agent on the fire in like 15 seconds. We want to see personnel dressed up in firefighting gear in a minute.
Dealing with the fire is just part of the training that happens here on Ford Island. They also have to deal in this building with the realities of an emergency underwater.
Here, the simulation is another submariner's nightmare. A sub taking on water, and fast. Their mission in this simulation: find the source of the water and cut it off before it's too late. Through a thick glass, trainers watch and critique making sure every trainee is ready to handle every conceivable situation.
On board a submarine, only like 1/3 of the crew is actually up and awake. So you have to, in order to get sleep, you have to make sure that the guys that are up know what they're doing.
Because it's highly likely you'll be called on to do just about every job on a sub at some point in your career. Take, for instance, these cooks.
Every day we have to break out the food that we're going to consume in the following day.
They're also the sub's main divers, highly trained for water rescue.
Oh, stop bolt.
And get this, 23-year-old Alan Williford is also one of the point people in the weapons handling room when it's time to launch torpedoes or missiles.
You gotta get qualified for different watches, and that way you can stand them. Help everybody else out so they ain't gotta do as much of time doing it. That way you can fill in some of their spot.
19-year-old Caleb Hatmaker knows this. He's new on the USS Greeneville, far from his home in Lake City, Tennessee, not far from Greene County. At this point in his training, the focus is simple: learn how to drive the sub.
All throughout the boat, we're constantly training. You're always training your relief, because the guy today that was a seaman today that just arrived, 1 year from now, he's possibly a system expert, and he's training the next guy. So in the submarine force, we always constantly train, especially aboard USS Greeneville.
For the leaders of this sub, the technology, of course, is important. But they're quick to share that machines aren't what determines success on board the USS Greeneville.
As complex and as intricate as the ship is, building the team is the harder part, and that's where the crew and the leadership come into play.
A gathering of the crew while we were on board to witness a big moment for one crew member. Remember Zachary Pedersen?
I hereby certify that he is qualified in submarines, given this 13th day of January 2010 on board USS Greeneville, SSN 772. Signed, Commander A.C. Carullo, Commanding Officer, USS Greeneville.
Pedersen finally got his fish.
These dolphins represent a commitment, and those dolphins are our dolphins. Those are our commitment to him, right? So when he wears those are our dolphins. When I wear these dolphins, that's my commitment to you.
It's definitely a turning point in your career. When you get your dolphins, you've shown the crew and you've proven to yourself that you have what it takes to make it in a submarine crew. So, at least for me, I think it's huge.
While the USS Greeneville is primarily an attack sub, it is also home to about 140 men. That's why a full 1/3 of this ship is taken up with what's called berthing space. And a lot of that is right behind this door.
Coming up.
You do get used to the space.
Life at sea.
Or the lack thereof.
That's when the USS Greeneville Rising continues.